Welcome back to the Normal Sports Show. My name's Kyle Porter. I am back from the Masters, back to reality, back to 4 kids and running around and everything else that goes with that. Got a fun guest today. We're going to talk a lot about just our Masters experience and what we took away from the tournament. But first, a big thanks to Holderness and Bourne for sponsoring today's show, as well as Turtlebox. We'll talk about both of those partners here in a little bit. But thanks to them for being longtime supporters of not just this podcast, which is only 7 months old, but of our entire business, newsletter, everything else that we're doing. So big thanks to Holderness and Bourne and Turtlebox. Okay, Joseph Amanya, we're having you on to talk some Masters. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a lot. The Masters week is a lot. And then I like the timing. We're recording this on Tuesday. And I think having that full day Monday to kind of unwind. And I went back and rewatched the telecast and stuff, the final round telecast, stuff like that. The tank is full after a big week. A lot of takeaways, even just from rewatching the telecast. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I planned on writing on Monday, kind of on my way back from traveling from Atlanta to Dallas, and I was just cooked. Like I just was like so exhausted. I didn't have any takes, ready to go. And I just spent the next 24 hours just thinking. And so I wrote down a ton of stuff on Tuesday for our newsletter. And then obviously we're going to talk about a bunch. Before we get to that, the premise for today is 5 things that maybe we shifted our thinking on a little bit at this year's Masters. So we'll get to that in a second, but this was your first to attend in person. And so I'm just curious about what your experience was like. Yeah, I think it was my 17th or something like that. I think Rory and I have the same amount of experience at Augusta National. But yeah, just what was your experience like being there for the first time?
I mean, you have more experience. You've been there on more weekends, technically. I had a great experience. It's hard. Like I've debriefed it with family members and, some friends after I was there for the first time. And it's hard to kind of put a lot of it into words, I think. But my appreciation for the golf course now is a huge takeaway. And understanding the routing. I feel like Augusta National, it feels both grand and quaint at the same time. Like there's so much scale on these big slopes and par fives that are true 2 to 3 shot holes. Like it's not, they're not averaging 4.5, and it's a big golf course, but it's also quaint. Like the scene between the clubhouse and the first tee is unbelievable. There's not a bunch of billboards. Brendan Porath wrote about this, and I thought it captured it well. Like the oak tree that people stand under, and there's very little separating the patrons from the players. And the way the green to tee transitions largely are very close to one another. I don't know. It was hard to, maybe it's hard to articulate, but I just felt like that the bigness of it and also how quaint it felt was a big takeaway for me.
Totally. And I was talking to Webb Simpson about this in our preview pod, but like, I think the Masters is almost a series of juxtapositions, because you've got this rundown old town, and then you've got maybe the nicest club course, whatever in the world, like right in the middle of it. That's a weird juxtaposition. You've got this massive rolling hills. Like you look out, if you're up by one and you look out over the property, you're like, this place is enormous. And yet there's an intimacy to it, I think, that maybe comes through on TV, but when you're there, it does feel intimate. It's all these juxtapositions, I think, that sort of line up and compound on one another that creates the Masters. And some of that's hard to explain unless you've been watching for a long time, or maybe you've been or whatever, but I do feel what you're talking about, and I felt it for a long time there.
Yeah, the other part that was shocking I don't think I was shocked by anything but one thing, which is how easy it is to watch golf when you're there.
Yeah.
I could not believe it. You could walk the final group, you could walk with Cam Young and Rory, and you didn't need to go 3 holes ahead to try and get a peek at them. It's a function of the crowd size, which is not as big as at some other places. I don't know what the official count is, but it's also a function of the way the golf course was designed initially and has been built out to where the slopes, and this is something that we'll get to in one of my 5 things that have changed my mind about, but the slopes create unbelievable vantage points, and you've got rows of seating, and then behind it, big grandstands. And what I thought I was going to see there was massive packs of crowds that you could not get anywhere close to golfers. Like I was just rewatching the telecast when Justin Rose hits his tee shot on 9, which I was standing. I watched a lot of Justin Rose's final round. The people on the left side of the tee box, there's wide open spots. You could have just walked up and been 13 feet from Justin Rose watching him hit shots, and he was tied for the lead at that point in the tournament. So that was the only thing I think that shocked me, and in a positive way, that it's one of the most inaccessible tournaments in the world to get to, but if you're there, it's extremely accessible.
Yeah, I actually noticed that more this year than I think I ever have before, and I don't know if there were fewer people there. I don't know if the Gnome Expo just sort of like took over and people were doing their merchandise hauls or whatever. But I was shocked at how easy it was to follow who was Rory with on Saturday? Sam Burns, Rory and Sam Burns on Saturday throughout the second 9. It's not always like that. I mean, I think when you have like a Tiger or a Phil, like it gets pretty jammed up in there. I think one thing though, Joseph, is a lot of it is a function of the fact that a lot of the same people come to this tournament every year and they have their rituals. Like their family maybe sits on 2 green, and then once everybody comes through 2 green, they're not gonna mess with the second 9. They're just gonna go home and watch the rest or whatever. And so I do think that this golf tournament, in terms of the experience of people being there, it's very different than when the U.S. Open only goes to Shinnecock once every 8 years, and everybody's trying to get a piece or trying to get a photo of Rory on the back, whatever. And I mean, that's the other thing, is some of it is you're not trying to go and like grab a photo of Justin Rose from 2 feet away on the 14th tee box. You're just experiencing it as you're seeing it. And so there's no reason to run around to the back 9, or there's not the same reasons that you would do that at the U.S. Open of the Players don't exist at the Masters, which I think is part of the great experience that it is.
Yeah. And I know this point's been beat to death, but the no phones thing is a huge part of the experience and informs the experience in a lot of ways. I just found myself way more focused than I've ever been at a golf tournament, at least in the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Because you're just not breaking that trance every couple minutes looking at your phone. And I don't think I fully appreciated how different that experience is. And it's definitely a good lesson of being at future events and trying to not look at your phone as much, because even if you think it's just a quick glance down at your phone, totally breaks your attention.
Yeah.
That was a massive takeaway. I know that's been talked about a lot, and I think people who haven't been are probably rolling their eyes a little bit. Like, I get it, I've never been. I want to experience that. I get that it's good, but it is a big part of the Masters.
I take a lot more notes there than I do, I think, anywhere else. I mean, having my little pocket notebook, and you're constantly in it because there's no other way to remember what you've seen or what you want to write about or whatever. And yeah, I love I actually think, like you said, the no phones thing gets overplayed. For sure it does. But I also think with every passing year, it becomes more of the fabric of the tournament. Because I think with every passing year, we get, and maybe this changes in the next 5 years or whatever, but we seem to get more and more entranced by our phones and addicted to them and whatever. And so because Augusta's gone the other way, it almost becomes more meaningful year over year than it almost means more now than it did 10 years ago. And
that has to be true.
Yeah. And so like, I think it's almost hard to overstate or overvalue like how meaningful that is to the fabric of the tournament. Was there anything about the experience that underwhelmed you, or that you were like, I was kind of like lied to here? Like, this was not what I thought it would be.
I think maybe the concessions is kind of an overblown thing in general. Like, the prices are so cheap and you got to try the pimento cheese. I don't even eat cheese, so I didn't try the pimento cheese sandwich. Can't speak to it. But like the ice cream sandwich, I didn't think was anything special as somebody who eats a lot of ice cream. I think some of the green surrounds were just a little bit less severe than I expected. And
I love that you're going from peach ice cream sandwich to green surrounds. Just very natural transition there.
Well, yeah. I mean, speaking of, natural transitions, I think that's part of the tension there, that like I was having this debate to an extent with some of my colleagues. Like I'm okay with a little more severity around some of the greens and a little less natural transitions, whereas I think other people would contend like, no, that's not the way Augusta National was designed, was built. Like they're large slopes and they can be kind of gentle, whereas You see at places, extreme versions of this would be somewhere like Marco Simone, the Golf National, where they have those like really sharp green surrounds with tight grass or rough, depending on the golf course. You see it a little bit at Augusta. I thought there'd be a little more of that, but I don't know that it disappointed me. I just thought that some of the greens, if you missed the edge of them, it would roll into a really bad spot, but it's not as, the line isn't as fine on some of those shots as I expected. But it's not really a negative of the golf course because I think the golf course played excellently, which maybe we'll touch on, but I don't think anything needs to be changed in that regard.
Well, okay. So first thing, I thought the peach ice cream sandwich was not good this year. I only had, I think 2 of them, and I think I heard, I heard KVV talking about this on, I think it was Shotgun Start, but it was not. First of all, the best take ever. Will Gray had this take, like there's too much cookie in the peach ice cream sandwich. Just way too much cookie. Needs to be half the cookie and twice the ice cream. And there was less ice cream this year than there's ever been in that ice cream sandwich. I was completely underwhelmed compared to past experiences of the peach ice cream sandwich. So that was a bummer. 2, I'm curious about, so 2 golf courses that stick out with what you're talking about, just off the top of my head in terms of major championship venues. One is Kiowa in terms of like sharp green surrounds, and the other is Pinehurst in terms of like rejecting shots and rejecting golf balls. Where do those fit into sort of this idea that you're talking about of sharp contours around the greens?
Yeah, I guess Pinehurst, maybe I expected something a little closer to Pinehurst. And to be clear, Augusta has severity. It would be crazy to suggest that it doesn't. Like the front of the 15th green is super severe. I just thought every hole would kind of be like that. I mean, I'm familiar with the golf course. I wasn't, what I saw wasn't radically different, but like left of 18, for example, a little less severe than I expected. Like you're not hitting way uphill. But in general, I don't think the slopes on the golf course and the elevation changes surprised me or underwhelmed me. 10, I was shocked seeing 10 in person. Bends way more left than I thought and is way more downhill. There's probably a pretty good case that that's the best hole on the golf course. And I already liked it, but my appreciation for it went to a different level. So I don't know, in terms of Kiowa and Pinehurst, it's definitely a lot different. But to your point, Pinehurst, because of how fast Pinehurst played, if you got off a little bit, the ball was gone. And I thought there'd be a little more of that at Augusta, but I guess it's also a credit to the golf course that it doesn't need to do that and it still plays challenging. Yeah.
I love 10. I think 10 is up there for me with probably 15. 15 is probably my favorite hole. I just love 15. I think it's extraordinary. I have a lot of nostalgia for 16, just growing up, having gone there with family and friends and just sitting on 16. And then 10 is up there for me as like, this golf hole is awesome. Like I just love watching it. I love the not just the elevation change as a whole, but on the shot. It's like there's no, unless you can get it all the way down to that bottom left of the fairway, you've got a very severe slope on your second shot. And it's into a green that is kind of crazy. If you miss left, it's like you're bringing double into play. Like it's a crazy hole. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. And I think 10 has only aged better and better as the game has advanced because nearly, I'm not going to say every golfer, but a high percentage of modern golfers now, and a lot of this has to do with the way the driver has evolved, hit cuts. And a lot of guys aren't comfortable turning the ball from right to left and never have to on the PGA Tour or Live or wherever. No disrespect to him, but I followed Ryan Gerard around a lot. I was doing a whole piece on kind of detailing all of his rounds. He's not super comfortable turning the ball from right to left. And he was in the trees on that hole at least twice, I think 3 times. And the other time he was on the right side of the fairway. And when guys don't have that right to left shot and they aren't comfortable hitting it, 10 exposes them. So it was probably a really good hole in the 1930s, and now it's just as good or better in 2026. And I think there is a lesson in there about if you're building or designing future major championship venues, I'd be pretty inclined to test that right to left shot aggressively.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was on that whole the JT group. I forgot who he was playing with. I think Sepp Straka and somebody else.
He can't hit.
I mean, I've seen him hit it at the Players, but he didn't. I mean, I don't know how many times he missed it, but when I was out there, I almost got domed by his shot, and the woman ahead of me got hit in the back by his tee shot. And, up that right side, you don't have a ton. I mean, you can kind of pitch it out if you want to hit like a really low, slicing runner at the green, you can, but his caddy was like talking him out of it. Like, we don't need to be down there. Like, that brings a lot of trouble into play. It's such I don't know, man. You watch PGA Tour golf every week and you're like, a lot of places it feels like guys can't make worse than bogey. And out there, it just feels like every shot is so consequential. Like, every shot brings different scenarios into play. And it's so much fun. It's an amazing place. Okay. I want to talk about 5 things. I've written down a bunch. You've written down maybe a few extras as well. We don't need to get to all of them, but we can just pick and choose 5 things that this tournament maybe shifted our thinking on even a little bit. I think that I don't want to do the LeBron thing where it's like every possession we are judging LeBron's legacy. We're moving him up and down, top 10, best players of all time. But I do think that major championships, and specifically the Masters, it's not crazy to say like, hey, this should shift my thinking a little bit about how I think about this player or how I think about this hole or this event or whatever. So yeah, I want to go through your 5, my 5, and just kind of go back and forth on these a little bit. So all that being said, what is your first thing that this specific tournament changed your mind on just a little bit?
Well, yeah, when you said you don't want to do the LeBron thing, I thought maybe you meant trade all your teammates and blame everybody else when things don't go your way. The biggest
I think that's what the Legion 13 is doing.
Didn't know you were going to go there. I'd say the biggest thing is how much better Rory and Scottie are than everybody else. And high level, like, I think if you watched this tournament objectively, it was really cool to see Rory win without his A game. And I don't know what grade, he kind of graded each part of his game in his press conference. I don't know that he gave his overall game a grade, but my guess is he'd probably give himself like an A- for how he played. And I think it was even worse than that. I think it was probably like a B+, Rory's B+ game, I would say. Yep. He scrambled really well, but he did not hit the ball well. And he still won. And last year he made 4 double bogeys and he still won. Mm-hmm. Rory and Scottie both this year did not bring their A games. And Scottie, I mean, he shot 74 on Friday on a fairly gettable day, missed a bunch of opportunities on Sunday, played well, but missed a bunch of opportunities. I think the winner of this tournament probably should have been 14 or 15 under, and that's not to diminish or discredit what Rory did at all. It doesn't matter how you get it done. No one remembers that 10 years from now. It's just about winning. And he won with his B game or his B+ game. And Scottie almost won with, I don't know, his B game.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 golfers in the world who can do that. And yeah, I think those guys both could have finished much lower. But it was just a zoom out. Like, yeah, Rory probably feels after this one, like, I don't even have to play my best and I can win green jackets. So that was a huge takeaway for me, just how much they've distanced themselves from everybody else.
Did you not already, because I remember you put together your sort of tiered list. I can't remember, was it after the Players, before the Masters, of top players in the world?
I did one after the Players, and I had, Scottie and Rory pretty close and being the clear 1-2. But then I also did like a contenders for the Masters, and I put Rory, Scottie, and Rahm all in the same top line, and I wouldn't do that again.
Yeah. So if you had to redo that top players in the world, would you put Rory and Scottie at the top and then just a blank space second and then tier a group after that? Or like, how has it shifted that?
Yeah, I don't know if it shifted it radically. Maybe I'd still put Scottie ahead of Rory. I mean, I think Scottie's dealing with a little bit of a downturn right now. We'll see how that ages, but I think Rory's close to him. I don't think Rory's there. I don't know if I would explicitly put a blank space, but I think the distance between Rory and Rahm is much larger than I thought. So, and Bryson, like, I was going into this week, I didn't really think Bryson could win, but I thought there was a chance. Mm-hmm. Now I have a much lower opinion of Bryson's game after that week.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that, like all of this, is specific to Augusta, because So one of mine, and I'll just go here first, is like I'm never picking Bryson again in the foreseeable future to win this tournament or like truly contend. I get that he played very well the last 2 years and was in the final pairing last year with Rory, but man, he just like, fool me once. I think I've made a vow to never pick the U.S. again in a Ryder Cup in Europe, ever. Like, I will never pick them again to win a Ryder Cup in Europe, at least in the foreseeable future. And that's how I feel about Bryson. Like, he's not... just watching this tournament, it's like, man, you have to like shape shots. You have to be like freaking... Like, I just went back and rewatched the shot that Scottie hit on 15 on Friday. He's over the green, down between, like, kind of by the trees, the 3 trees back there. And he hits this filthy, like, just short, like, pitch shot that you have no business getting it within, I don't know, 15 feet. And he hits it from 34 yards. I think it was to like 9 feet, saves par there. And it's just, you have to be so good and so creative and so imaginative around the greens. And Bryson is just like, he's just not. He's a great golfer. Like, he might win a major this year. He might win 2 majors this year. But at that place, I got kind of duped into, I think, like, thinking he was figuring it out. And after this week, and after the way his irons looked and his short game looked, I'm way out on, like this tournament shifted my thinking of believing that he is going to win a green jacket. I no longer, I thought before, like, yeah, I think there's a chance. And I don't really believe that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, most golfers aren't. It's safe to say most golfers aren't going to ever win a green jacket because so few do. But I would say I think it's lower than I did before. I still think Bryson could, but if the golf course is firm and windy, then I don't think Bryson is going to stand much of a chance. And I mean, this kind of gets into my second one a little bit, so I can just go there. But the difference between the test at Augusta National and everywhere else they play, I have a different perspective on that now. And
are you including other major venues or just PGA
nothing's
Tour?
like this? Nothing's like this. And I haven't been everywhere, so I maybe shouldn't say that so definitively. But on almost every shot, you're hitting off of some kind of slope, up into a green, down into a green that slopes away from you. It's so much more complex than anything else they see. And I think a lot of guys just don't have the game for that. And they don't necessarily know that they don't have the game for that until they go there. Like, this will probably be the last time maybe that I bring this up, but just from talking to Gerard after, he never played before, and he said afterwards, like, I think my game still holds up at, X tournament and Y tournament, Harbor Town and the Truist, but I'm farther away than I thought from competing at Augusta National on a Sunday. And I think a lot of golfers come to that realization when they show up. Jon Rahm seemed to sort of hint at it, that he's going to prepare differently for Augusta National next time around. And I think a lot of these guys show up thinking their game's in a ready state because they don't see anything like it. And then they have a shot that, the ball is well below their feet, hitting to an uphill, or they got to shape it around a tree, and they just don't have that shot. So I'm with you on Bryson, and I'm with you. I think that same concept applies to a lot of other guys too.
I thought KBV had a great line on this. I think he was talking about Jon Rahm, and he said something like, Augusta never lies. And I thought that was, it's essentially like a very short version of saying what we're talking about right here, which is you cannot bring in, unless you're Rory and Scottie, you don't have to be perfect, but you have to be like really solid for 4 straight days. Like, you can't be like struggling in one area and kind of like limp by, like you can't rely on just one aspect. Like sometimes we've seen at PGA championships, or obviously the PGA Tour and Live, like, somebody like, you have to be very, very complete because Augusta never lies. I think what's interesting is, do you feel like it's like, let's say you just want to be successful on the PGA Tour, and you're like, I don't really care about ever winning a Masters. Wouldn't you almost practice and prepare differently? Like it's almost, we talked about this when we were walking around out there. They're almost different sports, right? Like, they're almost like the regular PGA Tour events versus the Masters and maybe some other majors. It's almost like you're playing completely different sports. And so I'm curious about, like, if you were advising a player, would you say, hey, if you don't care about the Masters, then prepare completely differently for all this other PGA Tour stuff than you would for something like the Masters?
It's kind of a hard, like, that's so foreign that, because I think it should be the complete other way around, that you should only care about what you do in these events. But
I guess I guess my question is, would you tell somebody to prepare differently for the Masters than they would for like every other PGA Tour event?
Yeah. I mean, you got to learn how to, you have to at least know how to turn the ball from right to left a little bit. You're going to need it out there. And no matter what anybody says, you really don't need that much on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
Almost at all. Like there's some tee shots where it's nice to have it in the bag, but you never really have to do it. And I mean, again, that gets into the design of Augusta National and how severe it is and how much things turn. But yeah, I think you would prepare. You would prepare differently. Maybe not that drastically differently. Talking to a lot of guys, like they don't prepare that differently for the Masters than for the PGA Tour. I don't think the prep is that different, but I think what's rewarded, like how much you're penalized when you don't have it, is just totally different. But no, I don't think you have to prep that differently, other than needing a few more shots in the bag. Uneven lies, you might do a little prep there. But even the greens, like that was a takeaway for me, that a lot of these guys say the greens aren't that much faster than anywhere else we see. They just break a lot more. So no, I actually don't think your prep needs to be that different, with maybe the exception of being able to turn something from right to left.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I do think Augusta reveals, like, are you a great golfer? And PGA Tour events can reveal, like, do you have great attributes? You can have one or two attributes and maybe have some success out on the PGA Tour. And Augusta's like, are you like a really great golfer? Which is a very cool examination. One of mine is sort of related to that, but I don't think I'm ever going to pick anybody again whose short game is not either elite, like for their career, or they are not like displaying an elite short game at that time. I just was overwhelmed with how important, which this is dumb. I've been covering this tournament for a long, long time. And so I should have, like, I guess, picked up on this beforehand, but you have to be so good with your short game, because you're going to miss some shots. Like, you're not going to be perfect with where you're hitting the ball. And I think about, I was standing behind Rory on 6 on Saturday when he got up and down from the left side of that green. And you're just like, that shot's impossible. Like, it's impossible. And the video, I went back and watched it on masters.com, and it doesn't, the where the camera angle was, it doesn't do it justice from where the ball was sitting and what he was looking at. Your short game just has to be unbelievable. You think about the guys that have won there: Rory, Rahm, Hideki, Scottie. DJ was different because that was, November Masters. Tiger, Patrick Reed, Spieth. I mean, these are elite short game guys. And it's not to say like you can just scrape it around and like scramble your face off and win, but I do think I'm picking the guy whose tee to green game is really like in good form, but who also has unbelievable hands, because I just think I was just, again, blown away by how much it mattered this year.
I agree. I still would put iron play above anything else. You have to be a great iron player.
Yes.
But you're not winning. You are most likely not winning here without good short game. The player who comes to mind where it'd be like, all right, let's test that all the way to the maximum. Let's see how much you believe in this, would be Victor Hovland. And if he ever gets his driver back in shape a little bit and he's in form, then I think you'll get a good test of what happens when one of the game's premier ball strikers, premier iron players who doesn't have a good short game shows up to Augusta National. That'd be the litmus test, but it's really difficult to win without a good short game. So
yeah,
90% of the way there with you, but would emphasize that iron play is still king.
Yeah, what I wrote down in this document is the most important attribute to have at Augusta National is short game. I don't actually mean that. I know that tee to green game is more important. I think I just meant like it's something that I will look at far more than like how well are you putting it, how well have you putted it at Augusta. Like I just don't even think it. Obviously, you have to putt well in a week to win, but I am just, my mind this year was changed maybe more than ever that your short game is paramount at this golf course. Okay, what's your next one?
I'll go with, and this one we've already hit on a lot. I don't think you can have a great major championship venue on flat land, and it's not just the way that it tests professional golfers, which is huge, hitting off all these side slopes and downhill holes, uphill holes. Like there's endless layers of complexity that come with the way that golf course is contoured. But what it also does from a spectating standpoint, and that was a lesson I learned first at TPC Sawgrass, on at least as much display at Augusta National walking around there. It's huge for people being able to have a good experience on site. So if you were building something from scratch, I think that comes too far down the list, probably for what people's priorities are. And elevation change is absolutely massive. You need to create that level of uncertainty when a player's hitting a shot, trying to gauge their distance, a little downhill, there's some wind. I mean, Augusta just has everything. And it's, again, imperative to what you're actually testing. It's imperative to the patron experience. I mean, also, like, I'll even throw in with that having some tree coverage sometimes is a sort of contentious topic, but kind of essential for the fan experience, that there's shaded areas. Like, it's everything about that golf course checks every box. And I kind of can't believe the foresight that people like Alistair McKenzie had when routing it. I mean, the tree coverage is not as much of it. There were way fewer trees back then, but I don't know how much they were considering the patron experience when they routed that golf course and thinking about the vantage points for watching golf, but it is unbelievably brilliant to have whatever level of foresight they had. And also just, I think, a great lesson for which boxes should be checked to create a great major championship venue.
Yeah, this feels like a shot at PGA Frisco.
It is a thinly veiled shot at PGA Frisco. But
well,
I wasn't
to
even,
your point,
it was in my mind. I wasn't going to say it actually, but it was on my mind. Yeah, it is. You can't build a great venue on flat land.
I mean, we could talk about this for an hour. A couple things come to mind. One, Pebble, right? Like, huge elevation changes, and I don't necessarily love Pebble as a major venue because I think, for various reasons, I think some of the scale of it has been diminished by equipment, and there's a bunch of different reasons there. But the other one to me that's really interesting, have you been to Winged Foot? It's fairly flat as I remember it compared to a place like Augusta National. I think of Shinnecock as being really a lot of elevation changes. I think of Erin Hills even as being a lot of elevation changes. So this is a dumb argument, but when you're at a place that has a ton of elevation change, it feels more like a major championship. And at least in terms of like on the American side, I don't necessarily know if that's true on the, at Open Championships. I mean, St. Andrews, not a ton of elevation change and still a great open venue. But yeah, it's an interesting point. And, the reason I brought up Winged Foot is because I think about the last major that was played there, and it just wasn't, I think there was a lot of consternation around, like, is this still a great major venue? And I don't necessarily think you have to have elevation change to have a great major venue, but I think it's a really fascinating point. You were shaking your head there about Winged Foot. Do you disagree that it's no longer a great major championship venue?
I don't think Winged Foot's a great major championship venue, but that's probably a little more for different reasons about scale and how it doesn't penalize wide misses and some of that stuff. Yeah. One counterpoint would probably be TPC Sawgrass is a great venue. I mean, I don't think the Players is a major, but it's a great venue. That, at least, though, is really built up and spectators are standing. Like, though the shots don't have a ton of elevation change, there's a lot of elevation change that people can stand on. And then I also honestly would push back a little on St. Andrews. Like, St. Andrews is wonderful in its history, but when there's not a lot of wind, I don't think St. Andrews is a great major championship venue. And I'd be curious, I've never been there, but what is the fan experience at St. Andrews? How well can you see and how many fans are on the golf course? I'm not sure the answers to that, but I think the history of that place and the brilliant design, but a lot of which has been diminished. But I think the history is carrying a lot of the weight for why it's a great major championship venue, more so than the quality of the shots at this point.
Well, yeah, and that's a whole, I don't know. That's a whole other thing though, right?
Yeah,
like it's so much more subtle in terms of like elevation change. There's humps and hollows, and it's not these sweeping vistas like you get at Augusta National.
It can.
Yeah, but a lot of it is because they've built up, grandstands. Like, I think when you get out to like 9, 10, 11, there's grandstands kind of in that little, like out by the water there. Not the water, but what am I trying to say? The Firth there. And so, yeah, it is a little, I don't know. I mean, it's hard. Like, how much does like fan experience affect, like, because to me, what you're saying is fan experience affects a major championship more than people would give it credit for. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I don't know that I thought about it necessarily that way, but yes, I think it's really important that people are enjoying themselves and can see the golf, because the roars and the energy that Augusta has on a Sunday, it does have an impact on the tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with that. And it's almost like two different tracks, right? It's a fan experience, but then it's also like, how does elevation change and things like that affect the actual golf shots?
And
so
Augusta does both. Yeah.
And Augusta does both. And I think the Players Championship does such a great job. I think they affect shot value or consequential, shot making more with water than with elevation changes. But they do such a great job of like the fan experience there, because of the way they built it is amazing. I don't know. We could probably have a whole other conversation about Open championships. And I mean, you were at Portrush last year. It seemed like a lot of elevation change.
Yeah, but you couldn't see. Like it wasn't really, the vantage points weren't great from a spectating standpoint. So
yeah, but also like Opens are not necessarily known for their like roaring crowds, right? Other than like coming up 18. And so I don't know that that's necessarily as much of the fabric of the tournament as you would say at like a Masters or a Players Championship or whatever. It's a fascinating conversation. Okay. I'm going to get to a couple more of mine, but first, I want to thank Holderness and Bourne. Their proprietary aeration perforated performance fabric is tailored to provide exceptional comfort and breathability. It was hot last week at the first major of the year that we were at, and this was a must. Plus, in honor of SGS, which I believe you are hosting or helping host this week, I have heard an unsubstantiated rumor that a very important person at that club that we were at last week, who may have spoken at a press conference at the event last week, is a big H&B fan. So unsubstantiated, who can say, but found that interesting. You can check them out at holdernessandbourne.com. Okay, I've got several here. I'm going to go back to Rory. You kind of threw him out there. I haven't talked about him yet. I think that the Masters last week shifted what I think is possible for him in terms of major, like his eventual major total. I think before last week, I thought, yeah, maybe he can get to 7, like maybe. I mean, he was at 5. I think you didn't totally know going into last week if they were at very different places in their career. But like in 2019, Tiger won what will be his last one. And you're like, was 2025 like a Rory, okay, I got one final one like toward the end of my career. Again, they were in completely different places physically. Rory's still in his prime. Tiger was not. Tiger was 43 years old or whatever he was. So I don't mean that they were in the same place, but it did make you wonder, was that it? Was that like, okay, I got my last one, I completed the slam or whatever. I thought going into last week, he could get to 6 or 7. And now, in some ways, Joseph, I was more impressed with what he did this year than what he did last year. Because last year, he clearly was like feeling it. Like he hit the ball so well last year that it would have been almost astonishing if the only way he was going to lose last year was because the weight of the Grand Slam was going to like crush him, and he was going like the potential to lose that golf tournament. This year, he even on Friday when I was like, he could win by 10. I ignored the reality that he wasn't hitting the ball that great. He was scrambling his face off. He was chipping in on 17. He was making every putt he looked at. And I was so impressed that he won that golf tournament that I'm like, I think he could get to 9, which is Hogan and Gary Player are at 9. And that to me, that seemed like almost inconceivable at the end of 2025 with how he kind of finished up that year. And now I'm like, I truly think that could happen.
I agree. I think my expectations are different now going forward. A lot of this is a function of, does anybody else really elevate their game? And something I think about a lot, and you and I talked about this a little bit at the Masters, but there are all these players that we kind of think like maybe they're awesome. Maybe they are permanent world-class players, and they almost all come and go. Rory McIlroy has outlasted almost all of them. Dustin Johnson, Jason Day, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas. Like those guys may pop their heads up and win one or 2 or whatever. I don't think they're going to be doing a whole lot of winning those names that I just listed, but it's possible. Those guys all come and go. And Rory's been the only one who has any level of permanence. I think Scottie Scheffler may be somebody, I strongly believe he will also belong in that class. And when those two are on, they're going to take majors away from each other. Like any week that Rory goes out and plays his A game, nobody's going to beat him unless it's Scottie Scheffler. And the same is true the other way around. Maybe Jon Rahm can elevate his game a little bit, but I still think, Jon Rahm's A game loses to Scottie or Rory's A game. So Rory kind of reasserting like, hey, I'm way better than the rest of you guys kind of comes back to my first point. And Scottie is also in that camp as the only 2 players who can win without anything but their A game. And so, I agree that if Rory brings his A game to a few more majors, he's going to win them. And we'll see what Scottie does over the next 12 months. And if he takes one away from Rory or kind of changes that conversation a little bit, Scottie's still, I think, a better player. It's a function of, do we get anybody else rising to that level? And like one of my fourth one, and I can sort of hit on it, and maybe you want to talk a little more about Rory, but like I think Xander is about to start winning a lot of golf tournaments. I think seeing him start to flash, you can tell a pretty easy story from 2024 when he was one of the best players in the world. 2025 to 2026, it drops off a little bit with the injury, and he's starting to come back. Xander's A game does not beat Rory and Scottie's A game. It just doesn't. He's not in that class of player. So I am with you. I think Rory probably gets to, I don't want to put a number on it, but when he plays well, he's going to be winning majors unless Scottie's blocking him.
I would be surprised if he stayed at 6. I'd be mildly surprised if he got to 9. 9 is like, you might be like the 5th best golfer of all time. I mean, it's like an insane number. I think I would not be surprised if he was like 7 or 8. If he ended at either one of those, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense based on where we're at right now. I went back and looked at this, Joseph. The last 20 majors, if you go out that week and you beat Scottie and Rory, like you don't focus on anybody else, you just beat Scottie and you beat Rory, you would be a 10-time major winner. You would have won half of those last 20 majors because they've either won them or finished, second or T2 or whatever. Right. And you would have finished top 20, you would have finished top 10 in all 20 of them. Yeah.
I mean, that number doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
But the 10-time major winner is like, it's crazy. I think you guys have talked about that. We've all talked about this a lot, but the most impressive part of Rory's career is that he's been this good for this long. And, it's a longer, he's never hit the highs that Tiger hit. Obviously, nobody has. Maybe Scottie's like sort of getting close, but he's, I think, a better player than Phil, and he's having Phil's longevity, right? Like the most impressive part of Phil compared to Tiger is that Phil did it for 30 years. He won a major at 51. I mean, that's a joke to be that good for that long. And Rory he's following that same path. Now, could injury upend him? Yes. Could, things happen and he's no longer good when he turns 40? Absolutely. We've seen that with DJ. But to be that good for that long, I don't think so either. But I'm just saying there are other things that come into play that can affect how good you are. But to be that good for that long, and I wrote this on Sunday after he won, to kind of like mature emotionally and mentally, to kind of catch up to your physical talent when you're still in your prime, is pretty rare. Normally, guys, when they mature emotionally and mentally as a golfer, their physical talent starts diminishing a little bit. And so it's hard to like get all 3 of those going in the same direction at one time. And Rory's done that. That's how he's won the last 2 Masters, is emotionally and mentally he has evolved. He would not have won this Masters when he was 26 years old. Like he just would not have. And now he can. And yeah, just that longevity, man, like it's extraordinary. And I mean, I think it's underrated in the same way that I believe it's underrated in Phil's career. Like Phil's longevity is like the best aspect of his golf career. And it's the reason that he's won 6 majors. And it's the reason that he's won 45 times on the PGA Tour. And Rory is doing that as well, but with more talent and with like a higher ceiling, I think, than Phil ever had. And I think Phil's like one of the 12 best golfers of all time. So it's not to diminish Phil. It's just to say, like, we're watching something very, very historic with Rory, and I hope that people appreciate it.
I think another way of saying that is if somebody won 4 major championships over a 3-year period, it feels less impressive than if they won 4 over a 10 to 12-year period.
Yeah.
And I am of that belief that you should reward majors as they progress down the line. That being able to win them 10 years apart, and especially not fluky. Like now Rory's won 2 on the back half of his career. So
I had
go ahead.
Justin Ray look this up, but he's the first player ever in the golf history to win multiple majors, have have at least a 10-year drought, and then win multiple majors again. It's never happened. And it's I think people don't appreciate like how good you have to be for that long for that to happen. And I'm fascinated because I put a poll out there on Twitter on Monday, and I said, hey, who ends their career with more majors, Scottie or Rory? I think it's a really like I thought the results were going to be 50-50 because I think it's like a really interesting conversation right now. And the results were like, I think 70-30 Scottie, in favor of Scottie. And I get that he has more years, or I get that he has more runway than Rory. I get that he's been winning at a faster clip, but it is so hard to be that good for that long. Like it just is. And I'm really interested to see how the next. I mean, if you think Scottie's going to beat Rory in majors, then you're kind of saying I think Scottie's like going to be one of the 5 or 6 best golfers of all time, right? And maybe that'll happen. But
except that Rory missed a lot of opportunities.
What do you mean? Well, how does that affect what you're saying about Scottie, though?
That even if Scottie doesn't play quite to the level of the 5th or 6th greatest player of all time, he could still maybe pick off a couple of those opportunities Rory missed. Like Rory probably should have 8 majors right now.
Yeah.
Like Scottie only needing to pick off 2. I don't know that he has to play to the level of the 5th best player of all time to get to that count necessarily, but
yeah,
I would vote Scottie. Personally.
I guess what I'm saying is like, if you're paying attention right now, you probably think Rory gets at least 1 more, which means that Scottie has to get to to 8, which is 4 more, which is Ernie Els' career.
Yeah.
You're like, I mean, maybe that could happen. We start doing this thing after majors where we just start like distributing them like they're candy, and you're like, oh yeah, he'll probably win 3 and he'll win 7, and it's like maybe, but also maybe not. Also, Scottie might win 2 this year and they be tied. I have no idea.
I think Scottie versus Rory is a great one that you should like really drum up, build out. Like, let's plant this flag and see. Not that you have to take a position one way or another, but I think that will be a fascinating question to look back on in 6 to 7 years.
I totally agree. Okay, what else? Xander. I picked him to win last week. I thought that he was coming in very under the radar, playing really good golf. Top 5 at Players and Valspar. How do you feel about him compared to everybody else under Scottie and Rory? Like compared to Rahm, compared to Bryson, compared to if we're keeping Morikawa in there, do you think that he is kind of on par with all those guys, or is he maybe a half step ahead of them right now?
I think Rahm and Xander, it's hard to talk about Rahm, and I think a lot of people, there might be a tendency to overreact because he just had a really bad week. I think Xander's better right now. I think if you said who's better 2 years from now, I think it's probably a coin flip to me who's better between Xander and Rahm, or even a year from now. But I think Xander's the 3rd best player in the world right now, and I would very comfortably take him against anybody else. Yeah, very, very comfortably. If you wanted to, at any venue, any of the next 3 major championship venues, I would be happy to take Xander versus Rahm or Bryson.
I would agree. To kind of push back on that, though, this is one of my other ones. I think Cam Young's the 3rd best player in the world right now. And to me, Joseph, I know this is going to be right in your wheelhouse, but
commit side of this?
No, not anti. I want to throw this at you. His Players Championship win was awesome. Like the way he finished, the way he won that golf tournament was super impressive. But I almost walked away from the Masters not more impressed, but more trusting of who he is as a golfer. The moment was not too big. He didn't go out and pull a Shane Lowry and shoot 80 in the final pairing with Rory on Sunday. Like he hit the shot. Like I thought this going into the final round. Like I did not think he was going to be too nervous or play, all these different things. And yeah, he didn't win, but I thought I thought he met the moment. And that's just going to happen. Like, you just have to put yourself in those positions over and over and over again, unless you're like more talented than everybody, like Rory and Scottie, and you can kind of, like pick up 4 or 5 shots in ways that other guys can't. The method to winning, or the formula to winning major championships, is putting yourself in position over and over again. And I just think Cam Young is going to continue to do that. Like, I trust him. My trust of him winning majors and winning big time golf tournaments is higher now than it was before the Masters.
Yeah, well, look, I should preface with people who are not familiar with my Cam Young affinity that I've said since he turned, like, basically since early 2023, a little bit into his PGA Tour career, that I thought he was a top 5 player in the world, or top 5 caliber. So I don't want to pour water on what you're saying, because I'm like a huge Cam Young stan. I don't think he has the consistency of Xander Schauffele. I don't. I think Cam has more holes in his game than Xander, but I'd be very comfortable with slotting him around the 4 spot. And that's that's Rahm, that's Cam Young, that's Morikawa, that's Bryson. You can kind of put them all in a similar bucket, but he does need to tighten up his short game and his wedges a little bit. There is a gap there between his skill level and the guys above him, Scottie, Rory, and Xander. But I fully believe that Cam's going to win at least a major. I feel comfortable that he'll win a major, maybe multiple. But there are parts of his game that have to get tightened up a little bit. And I would push back on some of Cam's post-tournament comments. He said he hit the ball well enough to win, by multiple shots, was what he said in his post-tournament. I think going back and watching the final round telecast, there were some shots that he left out there. And he had a horrible wedge on 7 into the bunker, made bogey from a position where he could have made birdie. He did not hit a great chip on 15. It was fine, but it wasn't spectacular.
Okay, I haven't seen the broadcast. I was out there on 15. It looked like it hit something and shot right. Did it hit something on the fringe?
Maybe I'd have to look a little more closely. He looked a little puzzled by it, so maybe it hit something and turned right, but he didn't hit an outstanding wedge into 14. That was a birdie opportunity. It's not an easy shot, but I feel like he did the thing where after the Ryder Cup, Team USA said, we just didn't make enough putts. And that's true to an extent. It is true to an extent. But again, I think the winner could have been like 14 or 15 under here. Cam, there was a gap between the way that Cam needed to hit the ball and the way he hit the ball. And I don't know if he fully acknowledged that after the tournament. All of that is to say, I don't disagree with your overall take. I think he needs to tighten the screws a little bit before we're considering him the 3rd best golfer in the world over somebody like Xander.
I think it's a fair point. I think my broader point is, like, the moment wasn't too big for him.
Agreed.
And not that I necessarily thought it would be after what he did at the Players, but the Masters is just different, man. Like, it's just so different being in, like, that's just such a heavy, big, weighty, crazy thing, and you don't know how you're going to react until you're in it. And I was impressed that he didn't win, but he wasn't like, he's not somebody that you feel like is going to like go out and shoot 76 in that situation. Like you would almost expect with a Lowry, or even like a Sam Burns, who has been in those situations, several times before and has not played, not even at the Masters, at US Opens. Here's my question for you about Cam Young, because I needed to see it to like be on board. What was it about him early that you were like, okay, he's got it. Like, this is the guy?
It was a lot of things. And I was even going to say, like, isn't it kind of funny that he, as recently as a year ago, was probably viewed as like the 50th or 60th best golfer in the world. Like, your, Porter family draft, I want to say he went undrafted at last year's Masters.
I think so. Well, he was like 120th in data golf.
I know. It's just crazy how the perception of him has changed to where now you can say that you believe he's the 3rd best golfer in the world, and nobody thinks it's outrageous. I mean, some people might disagree. I disagree. I think would still put Xander ahead, but it's not outrageous. What did I see in him? I saw somebody who got into contention in majors very quickly in their career, which is something you only see from the great players in the game. Cam probably should have won the Open at Liverpool. He
I think it's funny.
Everybody.
It's funny that that's the one you go back to, because it was St. Andrews and Southern Hills that were the ones that it was like he was in it, you know. But what you're saying is correct.
I mean, he was in the final group at Liverpool and he hit the ball terribly. He putted the ball terribly through 3 days. That's when he probably should have won. Southern Hills, one shot out of the playoff. The St. Andrews one, Eagles 18, almost gets into a playoff, comes up a little short. You just don't see many golfers who get their way into contention multiple times at such an early stage of their career. When you actually pull the list of names, almost all of them go on to have success down the line. Mm-hmm. And I think knowing that his dad was a PGA professional and that was his coach, combined with, I don't have a lot of expertise around the golf swing, but just watching his swing and his short game and his putting, nothing about the technique looked like it would inhibit him from having success down the line. Again, I don't know the mechanics of the golf swing well enough to say that definitively, but that's how it always felt to me. And those were the parts of his game he needed to clean up. So it wasn't like, oh, this guy has to go to a claw or like a belly putter or something for him to ever win. It always looked like with the right instruction and a couple more years of development and polish, he could get there. So that was it. It was the early contention in majors, the premier ball striking, the speed, the unbelievable iron play when he's on, combined with his deficiencies looking like they could be solved, and some of the moxie that you're getting at. Like, he's always looked like a guy that doesn't get fazed by big moments. So he had all the pieces, and it's really not surprising to me to see him put it together.
Is there anybody in that bucket, like in that Cam Young mold, that you would point to right now, that you're like, hey, 2, 3, 4 years, like this guy's going to be in that, maybe not the same position, but maybe something similar?
It's a good question. I probably should look at that a little bit more, but I think Ludwig is still in that camp. I know people are really quick to call him overrated or whatever you want to say about Ludwig. I don't know that he's ever going to be a top 2 to 3 player in the world. We'll see. But I think he will have a really good chance to win majors over the next 2 to 3 years. I think there's still a little bit of development that needs to happen, but I'd sort of put him in that camp. Outside of that, I think Jackson Koivin is probably somebody who down the line we're going to need to pay a lot of attention to. He had a pretty good showing at Oakmont. I want to say narrowly missed the cut.
I think he missed the cut by 1.
And he did not. After I asked him, what would you evaluate that? And he was like, I played a C game. And he's also contended already in PGA Tour events. Really young, dominating in college. Honestly, between that window of Ludwig to Koivin, I don't know that there's anybody necessarily. I'd probably have to look that up and see if I'm missing any names. Thorbjornsen has shown some potential, but hasn't done a whole lot in majors. Yeah, probably not. I think we got a little bit of a window until somebody pops up. We'll see. There plenty of guys could pop up who are 21 to 26.
I saw a tweet today from Hodo. Paul, I can't say his last name, but Hodoanic of the PGA Tour. He said, Jackson Koivin won the 10th tournament of his collegiate career today. The only others to do that, there are 3 guys that have won 10 times in their collegiate career. Can you guess them? Yeah, Tiger's one of them. I think he had 9. Well, I don't know. This is, maybe Paul got it, maybe Hodo got it wrong. Yeah, because I thought McNeely, Rogers, and Tiger all had the same number of wins. I don't know. The other 2 are John Rahm and Phil Mickelson. So
yeah, okay. Phil makes sense. I don't know that I would have guessed Rahm, but
that's, pretty heady coming. I was talking to a college coach recently who faced Koivin, and he's like, dude, he's the real deal. This is not, he didn't say this, he didn't use these words, but it's not a Gordon Sargent situation. He's a super duper star in the making. Okay. Got a couple more things here, but first, let's talk about Turtlebox. It is Turtlebox season. We'll have our original Gen 3 rocking tonight personally at my 12-year-old baseball practice. And then I'll come home, and Joseph, you and I live in Texas. It's one of the 3 weeks in the year that we can eat dinner outside. So we'll probably have the Ranger going outside as we enjoy a meal with the kids together. Good enough for the number 1 player in the world to use while hitting golf balls, and certainly good enough for my baseball team to hit groundhouse to second and my kids to sing to at home. So check them out, turtleboxaudio.com. And yeah, let's finish up. My last one, I actually didn't write this down, but I thought of it as we were talking, Joseph, is I don't know how to phrase this exactly, but
I'm excited.
I don't know how much more of the Spieth thing I can do.
Where have you been? Welcome.
Well,
Yeah.
the problem is like I want to believe, like I want to, like you were probably in like middle school when we were living through this, like, I mean, I refuse to apologize for, like, if you go back and look at his numbers and his accomplishments and what he did at 2021, 22, like him and Tiger's trajectory, it was just one line. There's no like different lines there. He was doing what Tiger did. And so we had this, like, the only historical precedent was like Tiger and Jack.
I actually think I'd like to throw the challenge flag on that, but go on.
Okay. Well, no, go ahead and throw it.
I mean, I think you're probably zooming in very narrowly on major championships.
Yeah, but also like no, it's not just major championships. I had to go back and look at this, but it's strokes gained. It's, contention at PGA Tour events. I guess Tiger won a lot more in PGA Tour events, but
Tiger's career blew Spieth's amateur career out of the water as well. And I'm not a Spieth. I don't want to come across too negatively on Spieth, but I think saying that they were on the same trajectory is a little narrow.
But I guess my point is, like, he had so much, and maybe we over-indexed on this, but he had so much success at the golf course that you and I just got done talking about as like it reveals that you're the golfer, like you are a complete golfer. He had so much success there that it was impossible to think anything other than he was going to have this illustrious career, even if it was only at Augusta National, right? And we've gotten to a point where it's like, I don't know, man. Like, you're saying you hit it better than when you won here. So either that's not true, or everybody else has just gotten so much better than you that it doesn't matter. And maybe both of those are a little bit true, but it's not happening. Like, for the first time, and maybe I felt this a little bit at the Players Championship, but for the first time, I was just kind of tired of the whole Spieth thing. And I know you've been on this for forever, and I've been on the other side of it where I, pull the screenshots and post whatever. But I just was like exhausted of it. And it's like, you keep saying you're close and it just is not, it's not there, which means he'll probably win by like 5 this weekend. But yeah, that was one of my things I kind of shifted my thinking on at this year's Masters.
I mean, yeah, look, I've been on this block for a few years. I know Andy Johnson has kind of been on this block for probably 4 or 5 years, coming back.
It was a great call.
Yeah. And I actually kind of started to feel bad for Spieth, because any of the sort of negative feelings I have are not towards Spieth. It's towards the media coverage of like, oh, Spieth, like, he's going to get it done this week, or Spieth is Spiething, which again is just sort of a euphemism for being out of position, which is his problem. But yeah, I think both things are true, that the game, Jordan isn't hitting the ball as well as he was in 2015, and everybody else is hitting the ball a lot better. The standard gets raised every year in professional golf. So I feel very comfortable it's not happening again for Spieth, and that at some point when somebody shows you their form over and over again, you have to believe them. Like, since you can't chase something for years and years and keep saying at the end of the year, oh, it's because of a wrist injury. Oh, like next year is going to be the year. There's only so long, like that has an expiration date, and we're a few years past it. So I think Jordan Spieth can finish T8 at the Masters again, but I think the chances that he's going to win majors again is extraordinarily low.
Well, this is also like, in some ways, there is historical precedent for you win all your majors in this tiny window of time, right? I was looking at, Rick Gaiman posted at what age did everybody get to 6 majors? And it stood out to me that Arnold Palmer got to 6 major wins in his first, I think it was 25 starts, and he only won 1 more after that, right? And so I think that in some ways Spieth's window makes sense. And again, it speaks to how extraordinary Rory and Phil have been, in that they won majors for this 15 or 20 or whatever year window. Like that is not the norm. What Spieth did is more the norm in terms of like, you get this window. And I think about somebody like Dustin Johnson. It was like a 4 or 5 year window. He got his majors in that time. And that is more the historical trend than maybe it is more the historical trend than what Rory and Phil have done.
DJ's window might have been a little wider than that, but just he had some really close calls starting before that.
Yeah, close calls, but when did you actually win your majors is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think what you are getting at is that people continue in most golf conversations to underrate current form. And that when we're making Ryder Cup picks, people all agree that current form matters, but they start to convince themselves that history at an event matters and team chemistry matters, and at the Masters, course history matters, which it does. But current form, particularly ball striking, will always trump everything else. And I think that's how you underrate some of the guys who are hitting the ball really, really well, but don't have the name recognition, don't have some of the history that some of these other guys have. And we just keep clinging on to the names like Spieth, JT. I mean, Finau's in that camp right now where I think he's kind of done. And it's tough because people have emotional attachments to some of these players, but you do kind of have to move on.
Michael Kim actually said this recently. He jumped into the Rory got an unfair advantage debate. Did you see this?
No, definitely didn't.
He said something like,
I saw some of the unfair advantage stuff, which was crazy, but I didn't see.
Well, he said something like, yeah, I could go there, but at some point, course history or course knowledge only gets you so far. He's like, it's more beneficial to me to practice and try to like be better at golf right now than it is to know, like, if I can't, he didn't say this, but he was essentially getting at, if I can't hit the shots, then course knowledge doesn't matter at all. Like, course history doesn't matter at all if my game is not where it needs to be. So it's kind of the same thing you're saying. Okay. What is your last one, Joseph?
I think this is like not zooming. It is Masters related, but I think there's a lot of bubbling tension between the PGA Tour and the governing bodies. And I think when you go to the Masters, you kind of realize that nothing else is nearly as important. The other majors have their cases for why they're close to that level. And if you want to tell me that the US Open and the Open Championship are as special as the Masters, I wouldn't necessarily push back too hard. But God, we're going to the RBC Heritage this week. Like, does anyone care? I mean, the energy of that tournament is going to be nothing compared to the Masters. And Brian Rolapp was walking around Augusta National and having meetings with people. He has eyes. He can see that the PGA Tour doesn't own the events that people actually care about. He has hinted at that there needs to be more collaboration among the governing bodies. And, the governing body, Chairman Ridley was asked about it during his press conference and kind of pushed back like, yeah, hey, the PGA Tour, well, they are responsible for some of the success in the professional golf world and the financial windfalls, but also like we fund a lot of the grassroots movements. There's tension bubbling. It is going to be a problem. I've got it on pretty good record that Brian Rolapp is very anti-rollback. That's another arena in which he's going to fight with the governing bodies. I think Rolapp's tenure, and some of this is to his credit, there probably should be some pushback from the tour, even if I don't necessarily agree with their position. I think we're headed for some a little bit of clashing between Rolapp and the governing bodies, and I think that's pretty obvious when you watch the Masters, and then you got 3 days later we have Harbour Town.
Yeah, I mean they cannot have tier 1 events the week after majors. Like what? It's
terrible.
It's insane. Like they can't do that with the new schedule, and maybe they will. Scheduling is hard, and that's a whole other conversation. But what's interesting, Joseph, is I think that I was thinking about this when Ridley was talking. You didn't like. I don't think Monahan was a super effective CEO, commissioner, whatever however you want to classify him. Almost because he didn't like push back against some of this stuff, and Rolapp is clearly going to. And already seemingly has. And I just don't know like what, I mean, everybody talked about this, but it doesn't bode well when like your LeBron or your Ohtani, like in Rory is like, yeah, I'm good on the tour for like after the Players. Like I'm just going to go play Augusta National. Like that is emblematic of the situation that you're in. And I just don't know I don't think anything can be done about that. And so, when Rolapp says, hey, there needs to be more collaboration and there needs to be like the ecosystem needs, which I'm so sick of that word, but the ecosystem needs to be strengthened and whatever. It's like, okay, well, good luck. Like why would what leverage, I guess, do you have as the PGA Tour? I don't know what your leverage is there.
The only leverage I think you have is the labor you're supplying to the majors, which I don't think they're in any kind of position to say, hey, our guys are going to stop going. And in a little bit of a weird way, like Live existing has put more pressure on the PGA Tour to even be able to do that. So I don't think that's a serious consideration. I don't think there's ever any policy where the PGA Tour guys are going to band together and decide they're not going to play in majors unless they get a bigger cut. I don't think that we're going to see that.
What do you mean by Live has discouraged them from doing what you said? In what way?
I don't think we'd ever get to a point where the PGA Tour members would try to pull something like that off. But I mean, Augusta could say, shoot, we're going to fill our field this year with Live guys, amateurs, and whoever from the PGA Tour decides to play and accept the consequences. That is not going to happen. But the talent is not only being supplied from one place now.
Well, and part of the problem again is like your top guy, like your money maker, or one of your top two guys wouldn't like. It's kind of like whatever, man.
Yeah.
There's no. I mean, maybe you could get somebody like a Scheffler or Morikawa or somebody to kind of do like to band together and to create, have a union or whatever. But Rory's going to be like, okay, like I'll go win a couple more Masters. It's
he and Scottie already kind of told the PGA Tour to pound sand when they played in that event in the winter. They didn't necessarily have approval for before they did it.
The Golf Channel deal?
It wasn't the Golf Channel games. It was the wasn't it? I want to say it wasn't a 2-on-2 match with.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Was that 2 winters ago or 1 winter ago? Regardless, they did not get sign off before they did that. It was
It was 2 years ago. It was when they got the crypto. They got the crypto as
Yeah, what was that match? Brooks and
yeah, I think it was in Vegas or I don't know.
Yeah. But they did that before they had sign off.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I say this all the time, but 5 years ago, somebody like my dad didn't know the difference between the PGA Tour and the PGA of America, right? And that's not a shot at my dad. It's just most people didn't. 97% of people that watch golf don't know the difference. Yeah. And now it's like that's something that matters a lot because of how all this is going to go in the future. And I don't know. I don't really. I am very curious to see how it goes because Roll-Up he's not going to roll over. And then what? Like, what happens if Augusta and the PGA Tour start like there is like a brouhaha, like fighting again? Like, what does that mean? I don't know. I'm very curious to see how it goes and what becomes of all of it going into the future. Yeah, in ways that there hasn't been in the past. So, okay. I think that's it. I got a few more, but we don't need to belabor. We've gone 75 minutes, so that's plenty. We'll reconvene after one of the other majors later this year. Joseph, as always, appreciate your time. Check out Joseph's work. The Gerard thing was very cool. I haven't read all of them, but I think there's 6 installments of
five. The last one, he really kind of gave some good quotes about how he can get by on a lot of PGA Tour stops, but not Augusta, and I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, which again, tension
ties into all that. Yeah.
Yeah, Joseph kind of documented this, Ryan Gerard's first Masters and what the week was like, and the photography was very cool. And yeah, people check that out it's thefriedegg.com, correct? I always type in friedegg.com and go to that weird site that,
Thefriedegg.com is correct.
Yeah, thefriedegg.com. Check his work out there. All of the Fried Egg stuff during the Masters was awesome. It was really good. Ton of fun. And yeah, thanks for chatting, Joseph. Always enjoy it.
Thanks for having me.